Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea. Thanks a lot for being here today, guys. Now, for those of you who are regulars here for Open Mic, you'll notice that we're a little bit late today. Actually, a whole hell of a lot late today, but that's okay. I had meetings today. As some of you know, I am working on another project that I can't speak openly about yet, but I'm going to be able to talk openly about it here pretty damn soon. Hopefully this week. I'm not 100% positive, but hopefully. But I had meetings in Beverly Hills today, so I had to go and do meetings for that, which kept me past 3 o'clock. So I scheduled today's show for 4:30. Thank you so much for your patience, and thanks so much for being here today, guys. We've already got a hell of a lot of questions that people have sent in, so let's not waste any time and jump right to it. And the first question today comes to us from Dakota Barber, who writes, Blake was so great in A Simple Favor. Absolutely loved the film. I adored it. I really did. Not like a top 5 movie of the year for me. Not quite. But I really adored it. Both Ann and I went to go see it last night. And we were just thrilled with it. We walked out just talking. You know, Ann and I really like a film when the whole way we're walking out of the theater and walking to our car and driving back home, we're just talking about the movie. And we did that. Blake Lively is great in it. Anna Kendrick is fabulous in it as this charming, quirky character who's a mommy vlogger and all that kind of stuff. Just a terrific film that's a really interesting blend of genres. And it feels like the movie morphs from genre to genre. It's hard to explain. You've got to see it, but a hell of a fun movie. Well done to everybody involved, including director Paul Feig. Did just a great job delivering a wonderful, entertaining, exciting kind of movie to watch. I really dug it. If you get a chance to go see A Simple Favor, go see it. And again, Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick are just terrific in it. Tom Growcut writes, who wins, Asgardians versus Amazons? Fight of the gods. Well, no, the Amazons aren't gods. There's one in particular, whereas the Asgardians are kind of seen as that, I would take the Asgardians over the Amazons. Asgardians over Amazons, that's how I go on that. Luke1234 writes, what did you think of the Predator killer armor? Well, I cannot talk about that because that would be going into big spoiler stuff, and I'm not going to do that. Tom Growcut writes, did Marvel job Thor when he fought Iron Man? Nah, that was a fight. That happens out in the woods. Like, Thor started crushing Iron Man's armor. If that fight had continued, Thor wins that fight. But it got stopped midway through, and everybody, cooler heads prevailed. So no, he did not job Thor in that because they just started. It was just in the first stage of a 10-stage fight, and Thor would have won that for sure. Let's see. Nathan Oswald writes, I love both Terminator 1 and 2, but I love 1 more. I mean, it's a Sophie's choice of a movie fan's dilemma, right? Is Thor or Terminator 1 or Terminator 2? They're both great, and they're very different films. You know, they remind me a lot of Alien and Aliens. Alien is a completely different movie from Aliens. Right? The first one is kind of like a sci-fi horror, sci-fi thriller, whereas Aliens is an action movie, like straight up an action movie. They're very different films. Terminator 1 and 2 are also quite different films. Personally, myself, I lean towards Terminator 2, Judgment Day, but there's no wrong answer there. There's no wrong answer as to whether you prefer one or the other. They're both great. Let's see. Andrew Oldham writes, funny crossover idea. Thanos would have failed to get the Soul Stone if he encountered the old man from the scene 24 from Monty Python and the Holy Grail rickety bridge scene. If you're talking about, like, what is your quest? If you're talking about that guy, yes, that would be difficult. I, however, always say that Thanos' plan would have been thwarted had he run into Mr. Rogers. Because if Mr. Rogers had been around, Mr. Rogers would have walked up to Thanos, put his hand on his shoulder, and say, hey, big guy, what are you feeling right now? I bet you're feeling kind of scared for the universe. You think you're scared the whole universe is going to be in trouble unless you, like, reduce the population throughout the universe a little much. You're worried about what kind of universe you're leaving for your daughter Gamora. And it's okay to feel scared. I am scared, Mr. Rogers. Yeah, and that's okay. But you know what, Thanos? You're special. I mean, he would have talked Thanos down, man. Forget pulling the gauntlet. Thanos would have taken off that gauntlet and handed it to Mr. Rogers. And Mr. Rogers would have wielded the gauntlet and Mjolnir in the other hand. Or Stormbreaker, as the case may be. Mr. Rogers would have settled that straight up quick. But yes, had he run into the guy at the bridge, if Thanos didn't know the answer to his riddles, that's the end of him. All right. Nathan Oswald writes, I just finished watching The Blues Brothers. Oh, that's a great movie. Had no idea Steven Spielberg had a cameo role in it. I don't even remember that. Now, it's been a long time since I've seen the original Blues Brothers. It's been about 7 or 8 years since I watched it. But I got to tell you what, I do not remember Spielberg having a cameo in that movie. I just don't remember that. Huh. Well, you just given me a great excuse to go back and watch it again. Let's see. By the way, if you've never watched the original Blues Brothers, treat yourself. Go and watch that thing. You want to see some Aretha Franklin too? Just go watch Blues Brothers. Devin Holmes writes, thoughts on the movie Soul Plane with Kevin Hart. In my opinion, it's a guilty pleasure, but still terrible. It's terrible. Kevin Hart, Snoop Dogg's in there, Tom Arnold, I believe. Yeah, I don't know. I remember, what was that, like 2004 or 2000? It's in between 2004 and 2006, in there somewhere. I thought it looked like fun. And then I watched it and I was like, no, it's not even fun. It's just not funny. Don't get me wrong. It's not the steaming pile of trash that some people make it out to be, but it's a bad movie. It's a bad movie. But hey, all film is subjective. It's a guilty pleasure for you. No problem. I got some of those myself in my closet, so don't worry about it. All right. Mike Hill writes, hey, John, really enjoying interacting with you and everyone here. Just wondering if you could clear something up. Was Anakin in Star Wars the one to bring balance in the prophecy, or is it somebody else? I've always interpreted it as it was Anakin. And at the end of Return of the Jedi, when he was the one to heave the Emperor up and throw the Emperor down into that pit and kill the Emperor, restoring balance to the Force, to me, that was the fulfillment of the prophecy. Now, just because a prophecy gets fulfilled doesn't mean there's not going to be more troubles later on, right? There's no such thing as happily ever after. One threat, one problem, one obstacle gets conquered and brought to its completion. There's another chapter ready to start. And it's true in life, right? Like we work and work and work to get that degree, and then we get to the degree. But now there's a new challenge, paying off that degree. Then we work and we work and we pay off the student loans. Now we've got another challenge in our life, and then another one, and that's kind of life. So I've always believed, like some people thought, well, if Anakin was the fulfillment of the prophecy, that should have been it. But no, life goes on. New evils arise, new challenges come across our path to the galaxy and to our heroes, right? So yeah, I've always interpreted that Anakin was the fulfillment of that prophecy. And that it was fulfilled when he killed the Emperor. But other people see it different ways. And I'm not going to dispute that, not at all. But as far as how I saw it, that's how I saw it personally. Let's see. Tom Grocott writes, Netflix are doing a Last Airbender show. Yeah, it's kind of funny because somebody asked on the show the other day, do you think there will be a reboot of the Last Airbender movie? And I said no. And I still believe no, and it ain't going to happen anytime soon. I said, look, no movie executive is going to greenlight that kind of a budget to do a full feature-length film, stuff like that. Now, had you asked me, do I think Netflix could come along? Well, Netflix is kind of putting anything together that they can. Netflix is really in a big content strategy play right now, which means that they pick up a bunch of crap, but also every once in a while they pick up some really cool stuff. Whether The Last Airbender as a series will end up being some of the cool stuff or one of the pieces of crap, we'll have to wait out. We'll have to wait and see. Netflix has got a great strategy going right now. Just they're really into big volume of content. Now, that's not always wise with everything in life, but Netflix's strategy is pretty good. So whether or not this play on a Last Airbender series will work out, we'll have to wait and see. But it's the right place to go. Because no studio was going to greenlight a big high-budget movie project on that. No studio was going to do that. So Netflix was absolutely the right place for something like that to go. And who knows? if something like Last Airbender and a live action thing can work on Netflix, and a hell of a lot of stuff doesn't work on Netflix, but if this is one of those things that really are diamonds and it works out well, then hey, 5-6 years down the line, maybe we could see a change of heart as far as the studios go. Now that they have something tangible that is good, but whether or not it's good, that's a big if. We'll have to wait and see. But absolutely, Netflix is the right place. Netflix is the right place for this to get tried out, and we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Nathan Oswald writes, Rob Zombie is the most frustrating director working today. He doesn't really work much today, does he? Hold on a second. Let me just look up here. Rob Zombie, and I'm just see what, like, is he even working much at all today? Let me just check it out here. Okay, if we go to his directorial efforts, he did a short, the last movie, there was something called 31. I don't remember that. What was 31? Never even heard. That was 2016. Then he did in 2014 something called the Zombie Horror Picture Show. The last real movie he did was The Lords of Salem, which is 2012. But he's got a movie right now called 3 from Hell, which I'd never heard of. It's got Danny Trejo in the lead. Called 3 for Hell. Again, I've never heard of it, but apparently that's in post-production right now. It is a sequel to The Devil's Rejects. So there you go. Maybe we'll hear something coming out. Long and short, he's not a very active director. So is the most frustrating director working today. His white trash writing style, that's a little harsh, ruins most of his movies, while his directing is top-notch. I wouldn't say, it's all subjective. I would not say his directing is top-notch at all. I'm a big fan of Rob Zombie, the musician. I will admit I'm not that big of a fan of him as a filmmaker. Not at all. I think a lot of his stuff gets overrated. I mean, just personally, I'm not a fan of his work in filmmaking. I mean, hey, whatever. Not everybody can be great at everything. But I think you're a little harsh on his writing. I wouldn't describe it that way. But is directing top-notch? No. Top-notch is Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, many others. You know, Quran, you're talking about. These are top-notch. Rob Zombie is not a top-notch director. Not at all. If it is in your opinion, it's all subjective. Your opinion is no more or less valid than mine. That's cool. But to me, you can't... I would not use the term top-notch director with Rob Zombie. He's great at many things. I've just never thought he was that great of a filmmaker at all. But that's just me. Better than me. But I'm not the standard of excellence, am I? All right. History Soup writes, think God will show up in Lucifer Season 4? I think so. You know, in Lucifer Season 3, in one of the unaired episodes, they actually had God narrate one of the episodes. You never see him. You just hear him narrating some of the stuff, talking about how, you know, he loves his son, Lucifer, and his son's going through some trials and tribulations. So, yeah, you know what? I think Season 4, if not, I think they'll at least do more alluding to him making an appearance. Whether that appearance actually happens in Season 4 or gets set up to happen in Season 5, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I think I would put it 50-50. I'd say it's a 50-50 chance we see God show up in Lucifer Season 4. Kick It to the King's Productions writes, well, just yesterday I asked if we'd get a Last Airbender reboot. Looks like someone was watching the show yesterday. We are getting a reboot. No, we're not getting a reboot. We're getting a Netflix series, which is not the same as a theatrical film movie reboot. Those are two different things. But again, it's not a bad move. It's certainly better than trying to convince some studio to put up $200 million to make a show out, or to make a feature film out of it that was destined to lose money. Something like it going to a Netflix, this is a smart move. Now, I'm still not convinced that this can work. I'm still not convinced it's going to attract an audience. I'm still not convinced of any of that. But I think it's got a better chance of success going this route than trying in futility to try to get a studio to put up $200 million to make a movie out of it. This is the best way to go. We'll see if it can enjoy some success. Murray Reich writes, I'm Captain Marvel, y'all. By the way, it was nice to see Coulson in the trailer. Yeah, it was nice to get a little shot of Coulson in there, right? I love Clark Gregg. I just love Clark Gregg. I think the dude is a class act. He is the only thing worth watching. Well, Ming-Na as well. But those two are the only things worth watching in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I just think that show does not live up to the potential that a Clark Gregg and a Ming-Na bring to it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they make a show worthy of Clark Gregg or Ming-Na. That's kind of my opinion of it. But I just love that dude. It was really nice to see a shot of him in the trailer as well. Completely loved it. Alden Haspel writes, had the Predator focused on why the Predators keep coming to Earth, it would have been a better movie in my opinion. The ending was awful, almost as bad as the Siri Orb in Independence Day. The ending was awful, but I'm going to tell you what. It wouldn't have made any difference if they focused on why the Predators kept coming to the Earth. Why? Because the execution would have been just as bad. And at the end of the day, the problem with Predator was its execution. The way it handled its scenes, the way it handled its narrative jumps, and the way it handled its dialogue, and the way it handled its characters, it was an atrocious thing of not narrative, an atrocious thing of execution. Which is especially shocking to somebody like me, because it was directed by Shane Black, who is a great director. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. See, I got it right, guys. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Are you kidding me? The Nice Guys. Are you kidding me? Shane Black does not blow execution like this. I'm shocked. As a matter of fact, I won't be surprised if a few months from now we find out, hey, you know what? Shane Black actually had a family emergency and didn't direct 80% of the film and somebody else directed 80% of the film. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we found that out. Not in the least. Because that in no way felt like a Shane Black directed film. Shane Black is too good for the garbage that got put up in that. So anyway, Aldan, the bottom line is this. It wouldn't have mattered what they said the story was. Because the dialogue would have been just as bad. Their use of characters would have been just as bad. The way they handled and navigated the narrative would have been just as bad. It made no difference. As it was, Predator could have worked if you improved all those things that fall under the umbrella of execution. Better character interaction, better character background, better dialogue, all that kind of stuff. It just, with the exact same story, would have been a much better film. But the problem is, if you're screwing, here's the thing, right? Think of it this way. Think of it in terms of a recipe, okay? Let's say, remember back in the day, I don't know if you're old enough to remember making Kool-Aid? Remember, you would make Kool-Aid yourself. You get the packet of Kool-Aid, you pour it in the jug, you add the prescribed amount of sugar, you add in the water, and you mix it up, right? Okay, here's the thing. There was this one time, I'll never forget this. My mom had her baking ingredients stuffs all in these green containers, these green seal containers, right? And they kind of looked alike. And sugar and salt look alike in the container. And I remember one time I opened the wrong container, looked in, yeah, it looks like sugar, but it was the salt. And I put in a cup of salt in with the Kool-Aid, right? Mixed it up, took my big first sip. This is going to be so refreshing. Good. Spitting it out because it was all salt. Now, John, what does this have to do with anything? Follow me here. You could say to me, you know what? I bet that Kool-Aid would have tasted better if instead of the cherry, you went with the blueberry Kool-Aid. If those are two of the flavors they had. So you can say to me, oh, you know what? I bet that glass of Kool-Aid would have tasted better if you had made it with cherry, or instead of using cherry Kool-Aid, you used the blueberry cherry. And what I'm saying is none of that mattered as long as I was still accidentally putting salt in it instead of sugar. If I'm putting salt in there instead of sugar, it don't matter which flavor of Kool-Aid you put in there. At the end of it, you were still going to be spitting it out. That's what I feel about this Predator movie. It doesn't matter, if we focus the story on this part, makes no difference. If we had focused the movie on this, makes no difference, because as long as you're going to blow the character interactions and blow with terrible dialogue and blow with terrible narrative jumps, it doesn't matter what you focus your movie on. the main core problem wasn't what you focused your movie on. The main core problem was all this other stuff at its core was done terribly. It was all the execution stuff. So you can put blueberry Kool-Aid in there. You can put cherry or watermelon or grapefruit or papaya or tobacco, or it doesn't matter. Whatever kind of Kool-Aid you want. As long as you're still pouring in salt instead of sugar, it's going to end up like a big pitcher of crap. Right? And so, like, don't get me wrong. The idea of focusing more on Why the Predators, that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea at all. But it doesn't matter. Even if they had done that, the movie still would have been crap because they would have blown the execution still. So, anyway, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's kind of funny that you bring that up. I actually, just as I got in, I got a text message from a producer buddy of mine. I won't put his name up on screen. That finally got around to watching Predator. And I literally got this about 10 minutes before I started the show. I just said 3 words. 3 words in the text message. Predator is terrible. I was like, yep. Anyway, interesting thought, Alden. All right, let's move on here. Sea Spice writes, not digging Larson's voice in the Captain Marvel trailer, especially on the last line. Seemed bland. The movie will be good. It was just let down. Look, first of all, remember Sea Spice. I've been having these discussions with people all day on Twitter. Man, Brie Larson didn't give a good performance. What are you talking about, didn't give a good performance? Okay, lest we forget, Brie Larson is an Academy Award-winning actress, okay? Think of your favorite actress in any comic book movie. Brie Larson's better, okay? You think of any actress you want in your comic book movies. Brie Larson's better. Let's just get that out of the way right now. She's phenomenal, all right? You saw seconds worth, literally seconds worth of her stuff, and you heard all of her stuff completely out of context. I am willing to put money on the fact that when we see this movie and we see the signs in which we see the scenes, the full scenes in which she's delivering these lines, I guarantee you she's delivering the lines exactly how they should be delivered in that scene. But we don't see the scenes. We don't know what the context is, right? And it's just a first trailer with some random dialogue being thrown over top for a movie that isn't coming out for another 6 months and is just introducing us to the concept. All due respect, Sea Spice. All due respect as my fellow film fan. But this notion that I didn't like Brie Larson's performance, you didn't see any of her performance. You heard some random snippets of lines taken out of context of the entirety of their scenes for a first trailer of a movie that comes out for 6 months, and you're trying to decide whether Brie Larson gave a good performance in it? You saw her say 2 lines. 2 lines. And I guarantee you, when we see the full scenes and understand the context of those scenes, and we know the character more, when we see all of these with this Academy Award-winning actress giving those lines, I guarantee you we're going to walk away and go, oh, well, that was perfect. That was exactly how those lines should have been said. That's exactly how those lines should have been delivered in the context of this scene. But again, I honestly don't know what people were hoping for out of this Captain Marvel thing. Like, it was a first trailer to a character no one's ever met before for a movie that's not coming out for half a year. And it kind of reminds me of, remember I was complaining, I complain a lot, but remember I was complaining about a while ago about how, you go see I would go see a comic book movie early, and everybody's asking, is it better than The Dark Knight? Is it better than Avengers? It's like, well, okay, I just went to go see Ant-Man. It's Ant-Man. Does everything need to be better than The Dark Knight? Does everything need to be? But everybody wants to know if it's the best thing ever, because we live in this 10, 10, 10, 0, 0, 0 world. Everything's 10. 10 out of 10. If somebody remotely likes something, it's 10, 10, 10, 10. If anybody remotely doesn't like something, it's 0, 0, 0. Something is either the best thing ever or it sucks. And that's the way people kind of think today, right? And I feel like, I was reading, like, this one interaction with me and a couple of friends we were having, and somebody saying, when I compare it to the Avengers Infinity War trailer, where Captain America catches Thanos' hand, and Thanos looks confused. And when I compare it to that, it doesn't measure up. It doesn't measure up to that. Why can't Marvel capture the same magic? It's like, whoa, time out. Time out. Not every trailer be the greatest trailer of all. These characters 10 years, we have all the emotional impetus and all that. We know all the background, all that kind of stuff. And that all culminates to the overall viewing experience. Not every trailer that comes out is going to deliver that, nor is it reasonable for us to expect that it should. It's a first trailer to a character we have never met before that doesn't come out for another 6 months. And I'm sorry, it's a solid trailer. It didn't blow my socks off either. But this expectation that we as film fans seem to bring to all this stuff, every movie's got to be has got to be either as good as The Dark Knight or it sucks. Every trailer has to be the best mind-blowing thing ever or it's not worth watching. Like, no. Like, no, guys. And I know that's not what you're suggesting, C-Spice. I'm just saying, this is something I've seen play out a lot today. People are expecting this to be the next coming of the final Avengers Infinity War trailer. It's like, no, it was never going to be that, nor should it be that. It should just be a little tease of something, just introducing us to the concept that this movie is coming. We've got minimum 2, probably 3 more full trailers to go between now and when this movie opens. But as far as the Brie Larson thing goes, Brie Larson might be the best actress today in comic book movies. Probably is the best pure actress today in comic book movies. Now, you can say, what about Cate Blanchett? Cate Blanchett was a one-off, one-time only villain character secondary to the lead. When you're talking about lead hero characters that are going to be part of a franchise, there's no better pure talented actress than Brie Larson right now. That's just the way it is. It's up to your opinion, of course, but to me, that's just the way it is. So everybody take a breath. Everybody take a breath. And just realize it's a first trailer for a character we've never seen before, with a couple of random lines taken out of context of their scenes, for a movie that doesn't come out for another half of a year. Then just take it as that. And if you still don't like the trailer, fine. That's fine. But everybody just needs to take a breath about it. Anyway, Square Buzz HQ writes, thoughts on Cat Williams' critique on Tiffany Haddish not being funny and comparing her success and talent to Monique, raising one above the other is toxic. I'll be honest with you, Square. I don't like talking about celebrity gossip. Did you hear that this celebrity is saying this about that celebrity? That celebrity? It's generally not stuff I get into. All I'll say, and I've never heard about this, I don't care about this. I don't care what one celebrity is saying about another. Unless it's specifically and germane to a movie issue, I don't really care. All I'll say is this. Cat Williams is a funny dude. And he's had some great success in his career. However, I will be the first person as an audience member to say to his face, you're dead wrong about Tiffany Haddish. You're dead wrong. It's all subjective, that's fine. But if he's going to offer his subjective opinion, I'm going to put up mine as well. And mine is, sorry, Cat Williams, I mean, you're great, but you're also dead wrong. And you're so dead wrong, I feel like I'm getting dumber even just addressing the issue. So, yeah, so whatever. But generally, who cares what one celebrity says? I don't give a shit, to be honest with you, dude. Ant Banks, 1984, writes, what if the bus scene in Captain Marvel is a comedy bit where Carol punches the old woman and it turns out she's not a Skrull, but really human? Look, that's a thought that's gone through a lot of people's minds. Like, one of the things I mentioned on the John Campea show earlier today was that was one of the highlight moments of the trailer, right? When she just winds up and punches that old woman in the face. Now, clearly it's going to be a Skrull. But there is the option, what if it's somebody she suspected was a Skrull, and she just like clocks some old lady who happens to have the strongest jaw in the world? It's not very funny, because Captain Marvel straight up punching a little old lady on a bus thing like that is going to knock her head clean off her shoulder. So it's not going to be all that funny. But I mean, it's possible. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'm so sorry. It would be pretty funny if they did it right, as long as it didn't, end in the death of the old woman, which it probably would if Captain Marvel hit an old woman in the face. But believe me, it's something I've considered as well. It totally is. ZOMG Ruler writes, I didn't find Larson convincing in her role. Really? All 2 lines you heard her say out of context, you didn't find convincing. Stevig 454 writes, possible twist. Marvel's a villain. Ronan's in the trailer. Yeah, I said this morning that I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see Ronan in the trailer. Now, at that, I had a whole ton of people send me that one frame where I believe it's a shot of Ronan from behind that I missed when I watched the trailer. So technically he's there, but he's not really in it. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, Marvell's could totally be a villain. Nothing's saying that Ronan has to be the antagonist. I mean, it could be the Skrulls. Maybe Marvell's the villain working with the Skrulls. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, but that's totally one of them, man. C-Spice writes, I didn't like the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer either. Love the movie. Hoping Captain Marvel is less generic than the trailer showed. It was just the first trailer. Second will be better. Never doubt Marvel. I don't know how generic the trailer was either. I didn't find it to be generic at all. I thought it was very unique to a Captain Marvel character. So I thought it was quite unique. Again, I don't think it was a great trailer. But it didn't need to be. All it needed to be was solid. Get the message out. Captain Marvel is coming. Blah, 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 blah. Wait till the second or third trailer to pull out all the stops. So I agree. I mean, this is not going to be, when we get to the end of 2018, and we start having some discussions about what was the best trailer that came out this year. The Captain Marvel first trailer is not going to be in that discussion. I mean, right? I mean, I think even those of us who like this trailer will say this is not going to be in that discussion, like at all. So, but it was solid. And it did what it needed to do. And now we get to move on. Because I'll tell you what, I've talked to a number of people today who are not film heads, who don't watch the John Campea show, don't watch movie shows online. They don't read IGN. They don't read all that kind of stuff. They're just average film fans. They saw that trailer today and they freaking loved it. Like, who is this? Like, they were completely excited. And that seems to be the majority of the response we're getting from people who don't travel in our circles, who came to this trailer with a lot of expectations. Maybe fair, maybe unfair. But the one thing I completely agree with you, C-Spice, is this. The second trailer would be the one that knocks it out of the park. And I'll say this. If the second trailer doesn't really hit home, again, it doesn't need to be the greatest trailer of all time, but it needs to hit with impact, I'll be disappointed too. But let's get to that trailer and see how that goes. And again, look, this is a long line. We have seen many great trailers to terrible movies and many terrible trailers to great movies. I thought the Captain Marvel trailer number 1 was quite solid. Great? No. Memorable? No. Solid? Yeah. Yeah, solid trailer. Chris Warden writes, John, I'm with you when you say studios need to get their film budgets under control. In my opinion, it's ridiculous when a film makes over $500 million and still loses money. Oh, of course. Well, first of all, look, it's ridiculous when a movie needs to make $400 million just to break even. And we're seeing that happen more and more. There's a bunch of movies that get made today that minimum need to make $400 million worldwide just to break even. That's nonsense. You know, I talk a lot about the systemic problem, and it's not just a random problem. It is a systemic problem of studios spending more and more and more, just wasting a lot of money, throwing around huge dollar numbers, spending more and more and more and more and more and more and more on the movies. And guess what? You pay for it. You want to know why? Movie tickets keep going up because the studios keep spending more and more money on producing them. And a lot of it is money this is simply a matter of the studios do not have proper control over how much they're spending. When you can make District 9, which is a visual effects heavy movie, for $30 million, I'm sorry, but a lot of these movies today that get made for $150 million, there's simply no excuse for it. There's simply no excuse for it. There's the odd, rare one that you go, yeah, I can see that. I could see that. But that's rare. You know, it's just overspending. Then some people say, oh, well, who cares what they spend? They just make a good movie. Well, you are the one who pays for it. And then not only do they charge more and more for the price of a movie ticket, but then they take more and more percentage of the movie ticket away from the movie theaters, which forces the movie theaters to have to up their prices on their concession stands, because that's how movie theaters stay in business. Not from movie ticket money. They stay in business because of concessions. And the more and more of the movie ticket money that the studios have to keep for themselves, the more and more that the movie theaters have to charge for popcorn and soda. You want to know why it costs so much for popcorn and soda? You want to know why it costs so much for us to go to the movies? Because Yahoo Slippeldick over there at Fox decides he needs to spend $180 million on a movie you could have easily spent $100 million on. And then it frustrates me when I hear my fellow film fans go, oh, pay the man. Like when they're talking about Chris Pine, and there's like some financial realities going on with Star Trek. There are some financial realities that Paramount Pictures as a studio is trying to be financially responsible. And they went to Chris Pine and said, look, we know we have a deal with you to pay you X amount of dollars to do another movie. But the reality is the Star Trek movies only make so much. And we are in a no-win situation that we can't reasonably make this movie with the assumption that we're going to make a profit if we're spending too much. And we'd like to renegotiate the amount of money you make for this. And they did that with all the cast. And all the other cast agreed to it. Chris Pine didn't. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. Chris Pine has every right to refuse to take a reduction in his pay. He negotiated a deal. That was the deal. So I don't blame Paramount for going to him and trying to reduce how much they pay him, because they're trying to be financially responsible. And I don't blame Chris Pine for turning it down because he had a deal. Nobody's at fault here. It's just a tough situation. But then it makes me frustrated when I hear from my brothers and sisters in the film fan community going, oh, pay him, pay the man, pay Chris Pine, because he's awesome. We need Chris Pine. But it's like, then you do not get the right to complain about how much it costs to buy soda at a movie theater. You don't get to complain about how much it costs to buy a movie ticket. If you, as one of my fellow film fans, is just going to sit there and go, pay him, you're the reason movie ticket prices keep going up. You're the reason costs of soda keep going up. You're the reason costs on popcorn keep going up, because we as fans are just going, we're not demanding that the studios get more financially responsible. We're demanding pay everybody. Spend $500 million making our movies, and then we wonder why. It goes, how come it costs me $25 to go to an IMAX movie? That's why. I get very worked up about this topic. It's just something that has bothered me for like 10 years as a film fan. It's just completely bothered me for like 10 years. But anyway, that's just that. That's just how I see it. I mean, you don't have to agree with me on that. Not in the least. It's just, that's the thing that's bothered me for a line. It always bothers me when I hear my brothers and sisters in film fandom going, just pay him. The guy wants $30 million to act in a movie that he only has to work on for 16 weeks. Spinal surgeons who save people's lives aren't going to make that kind of money. Who cares? Just pay him. It's not our money. Just pay him. And then we cry. When it costs more to go, when it costs more to get some soda, when it costs more to get, then we cry about it. Anyway, I rant on this all the time, and I apologize for that. I just get really worked up about this particular issue. I have no idea why I do, but I just do. Forgive me for that. Thanks for putting up with me. All right. Murray Reich writes, when you said last week that ties in the NFL don't happen too often, well, we just had another one with the Packers this week. Yeah, the Packers and who'd they tie with? Who'd the Packers tie with? Oh, I can't remember who they tied with now. Anyway, so yeah, there's a second tie in 2 weeks. Now, generally speaking, there are many NFL seasons that come and go with 0 ties. Sometimes we get 1. Rarely we'll get 2. So it means a tie in the NFL is very rare. It's very rare. And we've had 2 in back-to-back weeks. It's just kind of crazy. It's like, if we get another one, I swear, if we get another tie this week, that'll probably be a record. It'll probably be like an all-time record. Lyle Navin writes, Aquaman's opening week projections are 65 to 75 million. Green Lanterns was 53 million. Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, and if it does make 65 to 75, that's not bad. That's actually pretty good. Look, if this movie can make 65, like, what universe are you living in? What universe are you living in? And then I had a friend of mine supporting me saying, nah, it's going to make like 20 million. I'm like, whoa, time out. Aquaman is not only going to make 20 million opening weekend. But look, I believe if Aquaman can make 55, seriously, I believe if Aquaman can make 55 million opening weekend, I think you take that. I think you take it. And if you get to the 65 to $75 million range, honestly, I have a hard time it's going to make that much considering how much competition it's going to have. But if it does get to 65 to 75, you take that as a win, man. You take that as a big win, I think. Now, I still believe that Aquaman opening to like 115 million on a date that wasn't December 21st was totally within the realm of reality. I really believe that you open Aquaman on November 30th or something like that. I believe like 110, 115 was not outside of the realm of possibility. I think it was possible it could have done something like that. Opening where it is, just not feasible. But if it could get 65 to 75 million, is it reaching its potential? No. But do you take that as a win? I say yes. I say yes. So we'll just have to wait till we get a little bit closer to it. But I honestly think if it can make that, I don't think there's anything to be disappointed about. I think you take that as a win. Keon Asadi writes, choose one, Beautiful Boy or Welcome to Marwen. Two good-looking Steve Carell films coming out. One, of course, has Academy Award-nominated actor Timothée Chalamet in it. I'm going to go for Beautiful Boy. I think Welcome to Marwen looks crazy original. Really interesting. I'm excited for this film a lot. But Beautiful Boy has Oscars written all over it. Beautiful Boy just has Oscar written all over it. At least Oscar buzz, you know what I'm saying? So as much as I'm looking forward to Welcome to Marwen, I'm going to take Beautiful Boy. Kyle Marcaro writes, thoughts on Call Me By Your Name, my favorite film of 2017. Speaking of Timothée Chalamet, he was nominated for Best Actor for that, and Armie Hammer was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that. It's a really good film. I personally, I don't even know if I would have nominated it for Best Picture. But that aside, very strong movie, beautifully acted, wonderfully directed, went subtle in many of its story beats where it could have gone overboard. And I thought it was handled very well. It's a really nice movie. I enjoyed it a great deal. Again, not my favorite film of the year, not my top 5, maybe in my top 10, I'm not sure. Probably not, though, but a solid movie. And again, it made the name Timothée Chalamet, even though I always mispronounce his last name. Because I often say Chalamet, and I'm not even sure if Chalamet is the right way to say it. Whatever. Timothy. Put him on the map for everybody. And now he's got The Beautiful Boy coming out. This kid's going to be a powerhouse, man. Powerhouse for a long time. Let's see here. Angel Chang writes, it's funny how somebody asked you about Avatar yesterday, and with logic, you said it wouldn't happen in theaters. Now, it's happening in Netflix. Oh my God. Yeah, and again, that's the right place for it to go. I think this is the best, because look, honestly, no studio was going to put up the money to make another feature film of The Last Airbender. Just wasn't going to happen. At least not now. Netflix, you got a chance now to go there. If it fails, it'll fail more quietly. But if it succeeds, you raise the awareness of the brand as a whole. I just think it's a great move. I really do. I think this whole thing about going to Netflix is a great move. You service a lot of people who are wanting to see something like this. And for everybody else who had no interest, now it's there. And if it's not any good, no big deal. It just dies quietly on Netflix like a lot of other things do on Netflix. But if it works, it's a great platform to get notoriety for it. I just think it's a really solid move for them to do. CJ Adams writes, Ronan not because first trailer should highlight her. I think what you're saying, CJ, is that Ronan can't be featured in this trailer because they need to highlight Captain Marvel. Well, just because you put Ronan in it doesn't mean the highlight isn't Captain Marvel. How much Nick Fury was in that trailer? Tons of Nick Fury was in that trailer. Huge amount of Nick. There was almost more Nick Fury in that trailer than there was Captain Marvel. So, I mean, you can't say that. You can't say you can't have any Ronan because that takes away from the attention of Captain Marvel. Well, in that case, you can't put anybody on screen. And you highlighted a lot of people. You had a close-up look at Coulson's face. You had a close-up look at Jude Law. You had a close-up look at Samuel L. Jackson. And a lot of Samuel L. Jackson in the movie, right? Or in the trailer, I should say. So, I don't think that's why. I just think the reason why they didn't have him or feature him much is because they're saving bullets for their gun later. When we get our second trailer. You don't want to blow your proverbial load. You know, somebody mentioned on the show this morning, and I completely agreed with them. It felt like Marvel was holding back a lot. I completely agree. I felt the same way. I felt like Marvel was keeping a lot close to the vest. And they'll release some of that with the second trailer. But you don't, am I right, guys? You never want to blow your load early. Nothing good ever comes out of blowing your load early. And you don't want to do that with your first trailer for a character no one's ever heard of in a movie that's coming out half a year from now. So I agree with that. Okay, Alex Pitt writes, over under 35%, Bond 25 gets delayed until 2020. You know what? 35 is a good number. I'll still take the under on 35. I would put it closer to 25 to 30%, but whichever number Bond 25 with all the delays, with them losing a director, now they're probably going to have. But we're at that point now that, no, it getting delayed is a very real possibility. So I'll tell you what, every day that passes increases that likelihood that it gets pushed to 2020. So tomorrow, the chances are more likely it gets pushed to 2020. Wednesday, it's even a higher chance. Thursday, it's even a higher. The longer we go, the more likely it's going to get pushed. As of right now, I still think 2019, but make no mistake, it could very easily be pushed to 2020. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, better sequels. Back to the Future 2 or 3, or Jurassic Park, Jurassic World? Well, which Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies specifically? We've had multiple Jurassic Park movies after the first one. So it all depends on the two sequels. Jurassic World, like, I'll put it this way. Jurassic World, the first Jurassic World movie, was better than Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3, in my opinion. To me, a lot of people get mad at me when I say this. And, you know, good Canadian kid. But the only truly great Back to the Future movie, in my opinion, was the first one. The second one's not bad. Third one's okay. Second one's good. But the only truly great Back to the Future movie, I believe, was the first one. So I might actually say the Jurassic Park ones, depending on which two you're talking about. So that would have a lot to do with it. Patrick Conway writes, Director Coulson's back rocking the Tintin cut. Yeah, it was kind of cool seeing him with that hairdo in there, right? There was a little bit of that. Patrick follows up with, is it wrong that I hope the old lady's not a Skrull? Well, again, you're not the only one thinking it. We mentioned it already once before. There are a lot of people wondering if maybe that old lady ain't a Skrull at all. If maybe she's something else altogether. We'll have to wait and see. Kara Black writes, people dissing Brie Larson's performance as Captain Marvel need to understand that her character is supposed to be bland/unemotional due to her Kree DNA. Brie stated that in an interview weeks ago. Well, I mean, it's more than that. Again, I'm not going to cover everything we were talking, but just to highlight, we only heard a couple of lines spoken out of context from the scenes in which they're delivered, and we don't know how those lines are supposed to be delivered in the context of those scenes. It's ridiculous to try to criticize the performance when we don't know what the performance in the scene is. You cannot divorce the context of the scene from the performance. You just can't do it. We can hear her say things a certain way, But once we see the movie, we're probably going to go, oh, that was the exact right way to say it in that scene, in that context. So maybe it was questionable lines to use in the trailer, but it's pointless to try to criticize the performance of the line when we have no idea what the context of the scene is. And remember, you're talking about an Academy Award-winning actress. A damn good Academy Award-winning actress who's going to have more trophies on her mantle within the next 15 years, by the way. So, yeah, it's a little bit silly at this point to go at it from that angle. I agree with you, Kara. All right. Roman Spector writes, will Elektra be in Season 3? Well, I'm going to assume you mean Daredevil Season 3. I got to imagine she will. I haven't personally read any, I haven't been keeping up to date and following the development of Daredevil all that closely. So I haven't read that she's going to be back. But it seems to me she would be. I assume she's going to be. Again, I can't state that as a fact, but the way they've handled everything, it seems to me that to make sense that they would bring her back. I'll be a little bit surprised if they don't. Let's put it that way. Zach Stewart writes, if people respond well to Joaquin's portrayal of the Joker, well, and they will, obviously, what do you think the chances of him returning to the role in a future movie? Very, very small chance. Remember, one of the key reasons Joaquin Phoenix ultimately turned down the Doctor Strange role was because he did, at least according to reports, he did not want to sign a multi-film deal. He didn't want to sign a multi-film deal. He didn't want to be on the hook to be forced to come back to do more if he didn't want to. Understanding that, I don't know the details of Joaquin Phoenix's contract with Warner Brothers for this Joker movie, but I'm willing to put money, maybe $1. I'm willing to put $1 on that he did not sign a multi-film deal. I'm willing to bet $1 that he signed up because they pitched it to him as a standalone film. Look, it's Joaquin Phoenix. He's one of the best actors in the world. Everybody loves every performance Joaquin Phoenix gives. People may or may not like the movie, but I almost guarantee you people are going to like his performance in it. Warner Brothers seems to have a hell of a lot of faith in this movie. But I just have a feeling, and again, I can't back this up. I don't know this for a fact. But understanding the individuals involved, I would be willing to put $1 on it that this was pitched to him as a standalone movie. It is not a multi-film contract deal. I could be wrong about that, but I highly doubt it. And that, no, we have zero chance. Never say zero, but a very small chance that we would see him return to the role in a future movie. I do not think that's their plan for this. I think they're approaching this as a true standalone film. And we'll have to see. We'll have to see. We'll find out if I'm right or wrong. Let's see. Kiana Sadi writes, thinking about getting UFC subscription to watch Khabib. I don't think, I could be wrong on, maybe I missed an announcement, but I don't think UFC doesn't work like the WWE Network. You know, WWE Network, you spend $10 a month or $15 up. If UFC offered a $25 a month subscription plan where I get to watch all the pay-per-views live, I'm signing up. I'm signing up for 2 years. I'll pay for 2 years up front. It would be a great idea. But I don't think they're doing that unless I missed an announcement, which is always possible. Kara Black writes, did you see that Cassandra Amell, Stephen's wife, and Elizabeth Tulloch were cast as Nora Freeze and Lois Lane for the crossover event? I didn't know about Elizabeth, but I did hear about Cassandra signing up for it. To be in, I believe she's playing Mr. Freeze's wife, Nora, which is great. I think that's wonderful. I'm super happy for them. You know, I got a chance to talk to Stephen Amell on a number of occasions. I never had the privilege of meeting his wife, but I heard he never did anything. Whenever Stephen Amell talked about his wife, he never did anything but rave about her. So good for her and good for them being able to work together on screen. I think that's fabulous. Psycho Pretzel, I like that username. Psycho Pretzel writes, hey John, first time super chat here. Well, thanks so much for writing in, Psycho. Going to the doctor each month has been interesting for me because there's always a movie on in the lobby that I forgot about. Wild Hogs, Mr. McGorham, it's weird. I swear, I remember there was this one restaurant Oh, I'm trying to remember what it was called. There was a restaurant I used to go to every once in a while in Vegas, and there would always be a movie on, and it would always, like, somebody like me or you, because if you're watching this, clearly you're a big film fan. Like somebody like me or you or one of the members of our film fan community, you'd think if they put a random movie on, we would know what it is. But I'm telling you, every time I would go into this restaurant in Vegas, I'd see the movie on the screen. I go, I'm not quite sure what movie this is. Like, it was always some obscure movie that you hadn't thought about. You know what? One time it was even Wild Hogs. One time it was even Wild Hogs, which is kind of funny that you would mention that here, right? So yeah, I've been there, man. I have totally been there. Ben Heyusa writes, John, there's a video on YouTube of Thor's arrival in Wakanda, but with the immigrant song. Check it out. Definitely put a smile on your face like Thanos. I'm sure, but I mean, that immigrant song, like you put that on, and you can put that music to me making bacon in the morning and making breakfast, and all of a sudden me making breakfast is an exciting video to watch, right? So I believe, it may not be the same one, but I'm pretty positive I've seen multiple people put up the Thor arrival in Wakanda to the immigrant song thing. And that just pumps up any scene, man. Like I said, you could show me making breakfast in the morning to that music, and all of a sudden that's something is worth watching, right? It's such a great piece of music. Matter of fact, I put it up on my Twitter. Some good friends of mine and Anne just got married a few weeks ago, and Anne they got married up in Carmel, California. Anne and I went up for the weekend and got to be there for the wedding. And he made the best entrance. His name's Spencer. Spencer made the best entrance that I've ever seen a groom make. He had a hoverboard, but with all this, I don't know what the word for it, like the cotton fluff around it to make it look like a floating cloud. And he had this big specked out jacket and everything, and his grandfather's sword, and they had the immigrant song playing. And he came flying down the aisle on this hoverboard like he was floating on a cloud and hovering through a crowd to the immigrant song. Made it the best entrance ever. I put it up on my Twitter. I should show it on one of my shows one of these days if I think about it. But yeah, it was totally great. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, would you do Star Wars talk again, even if you don't find someone soon, like when episode 9 gets closer? I am not planning on doing Star Wars talk again unless I find a good host to do it with me. Much like somebody of the caliber of a Robert Meyer Burnett, who not only knows Star Wars lore completely inside out and backwards, 2, has experience being on camera and knows how to do on-camera stuff, and 3, has an incredible talent level on camera. Because you can know everything in the world if you're not talented at communicating your thoughts. And I mean, I've got some friends of mine a number of friends of mine that have reached out to me and said, hey, John, I'll do this with you. And I know they know lots about Star Wars, but they're not necessarily versed in being great on-camera communicators and how to communicate and transmit their thoughts and opinions and knowledge on a topic. I need to find that perfect person. Ideally, somebody who's never done a show with me before would be ideal. But I need to find my Robert Meyer Burnett for Star Wars. Once I find that person, I will start up Star Wars talk again. But not before. Not before. And hopefully it'll be done soon. Nosferatu writes, Robin, a 13-year-old kid with a stick. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I remember that is the big thing that always comes up. You know, people say, John, how can you not like Robin? I do love Robin. I love Robin in the comic books and in the animated stuff. But Robin as a concept does not work in live action unless you change the traditional understanding of Robin. You want to make Robin a 20-year-old dude? I'm all for it. That's fine. But our traditional understanding of Robin, Batman taking some 12-year-old kid around with him fighting, mobsters with machine guns, makes Batman guilty of child abuse, according to the law. That's a real dick thing for Batman to do. And then people say, well, John, you're okay with Spider-Man, and he's just a high school student. Spider-Man has the power of the gods. Spider-Man can lift 2 city buses over his head and throw them the length of a football field. Spider-Man has superhuman agility and speed and strength and this magical thing called spider sense that nobody can completely define. He is a god living amongst mortals. Robin is a 13-year-old kid with a stick. So please do not compare them. So yeah, I use that line all the time. So thanks for that, Nosferatu. Devin Holmes writes, thoughts on Norbit? It's so bad. Well, I mean, Devin, you just kind of, obviously it's so bad. I've never met anybody that likes Norbit. Now, all film is subjective, so therefore I'm sure there are people out there somewhere that like Norbit. I've just never come across those people. I've never had any of those people in my social circles said to me, that Norbit movie? I like that one. That one's good. I've never heard that phrase ever said to me before. But maybe you're one of those people that's like, hey, wait a minute, I like Norbit. That's great. All film's subjective. But yeah, I've just never personally met anybody that liked it. Alexander Helmer writes, is Spielberg directing John Campea's Shadow Hunt? I would love it. It'd be great. I told the story the other day, but I went to the annual John Williams concert at the Hollywood Bowl. Ann and I go every year. And I didn't even know. Those of you guys who watch me, my all-time favorite filmmaker is Steven Spielberg. I had no idea that Steven Spielberg was John Williams' special guest this year at his concert. And I swear to God, you can ask Ann, I was almost in tears because we were there when we found out Spielberg's here. I was almost in tears. And Spielberg came out, told a bunch of stories, set up a bunch of pieces and all this. It was so great seeing John Williams and Steven Spielberg on stage together. It was like stupid, crazy good. I just loved it. Jared Vester writes, well, you mentioned the last Airbender movie the other day, and now they've announced the last Airbender Netflix show. Let's hope it's good. Fingers crossed. Again, this is, I've said it already, it is the best approach. I think they are doing the right thing. I think this is the best approach. I think this has its biggest chance for success. Again, I'm still not confident it'll succeed, but I'm confident that this is the best chance for success it has. So I feel pretty good about that. All right. Let's see. Ben writes, any news on John Wick TV series? None. I have heard no development news on the John Wick TV series at this point. As far as I know, they're still going to do it, but I have heard nothing, no development on it whatsoever. At least not that I've heard. Dimsum05 writes, Sucker Punch would be a great montage music video on YouTube. Yes, it would. All music, no dialogue, edit all the good visuals and great song. We talked about, somebody was asking, is there any movie that you like, but only because of the visuals? And I said no. Like, if a movie's bad, a movie's bad. But if there ever was a movie I was going to like only because the visuals are great, it would be Sucker Punch. Directed by Zack Snyder. Sucker Punch is a beautiful movie. And I contend if you put that movie on mute and just watch it without the dialogue and kind of make up the story and the dialogue in your head as it goes, you'll love that movie. Unfortunately, you don't watch movies on mute, and it's not a very good movie at all. But if there was ever a movie that would be really cool to watch just on mute and make up your own, it's Sucker Punch. Higher level of visual storytelling. Zack Snyder is on a higher level when it comes to pure visual storytelling. He struggles a little bit in some other stuff, but when it comes to pure visual storytelling, dude's just, like I said, on another level. Dim Sum follows up. Batman vs. Superman news, scene with Soups saving people and talking heads debating whether he is a good thing is the highlight for me from that movie. Oh, you're talking about the scene when it's showing all this montage of clips of Superman doing random things, saving certain people, but you hear all the people debating whether we have a need for Superman. And it is a great moment in the film. It is. To me, it's one of the strong moments of the film. I like Batman versus Superman overall, but that, Dim Sum, I completely agree with your assessment on that. I think that is definitely one of the strong moments in the movie. Let's see. Dim Sum 05 follows up. Flood victim reaching out for hope from a godlike Superman majestically floats while Degrassi waxes poetically. Gives me chills every time. Yeah, it's, the whole different ways of looking at it too. And you understand, if this was the real world and Superman were to pop up, these are the debates we would be having. These are the discussions we would be having. And the way they utilize the visual imagery, once again, Zack Snyder as a visual storyteller, with the ongoing public discourse about it, was a really nice juxtaposition of the whole thing. And I dug it a great deal. Sharon Aurora writes, Kiss Kiss Gang Bang is greater than Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Yeah, So I accidentally said on open mic the other day, we were talking about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I had a slip of the tongue and I accidentally said Kiss Kiss Gang Bang. And I got loads of crap for it in good fun. But I got loads of good fun crap about it on Twitter afterwards, and everybody's been talking about it ever since. Kiss Kiss Gang Bang. Totally different movie from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Jesse Martin writes, "Yo, John, you was my guy and all, but I had no idea you was a freak. Nice kiss, kiss. See more kiss, kiss, gang bang stuff. Kiss, kiss, gang bang. I see you. Be safe, G. Did you watch Iron Fist? Thoughts? Yes, I did. I finished off Iron Fist. So I finished the last 2 episodes. My overall impression still stands. Not great, but not all that bad. And certainly an improvement over season 1. Certainly, it's a stand head and shoulders above improvement over season 1. Of that, to me, there is no doubt. Definitely an improvement. The very, very end was convoluted, and oh, look, now the Iron Fist power, well, I got to be careful. I don't want to give too much away for those of you who haven't seen it, but the very, very ending to me was convoluted and didn't make much sense. I understood it, but it just makes no sense. But again, an improvement, because the Iron Fist season 1 was not bad. Iron Fist season 1 was dreadful, just awful. This is a significant improvement, even if it's not great, and it's not great. I'm not even sure I'd say it's good, but it's not bad. And not bad is a huge leap forward from Iron Fist season 1. And if they can make a similar leap forward into Iron Fist season 3, then we've got something to look forward to. But definitely season 2 is a step in the right direction. And I'll say this. I completely regretted wasting hours in my life watching Iron Fist season 1. I don't regret watching Iron Fist season 2. I don't regret it. I actually got some enjoyment out of it. It's an improvement. It ain't bad. Still certainly not on Punisher or Daredevil level by any stretch of the imagination, but an improvement over season 1. Levi Road writes, "Hey John, here's my list for best actors working today. Shia LaBeouf, Joaquin Phoenix, Jake Gyllenhaal, Colin Farrell, and Michael B. Jordan. Thoughts?" Yeah, those aren't bad. Those are good. I don't know that any of those would be in my top 3, but there's no denying Jake Gyllenhaal is a great actor. Colin Farrell's an underrated actor. He's just not... Colin Farrell can be up there with the greats. It's just that he's not consistent, so that's always a problem. Michael B. Jordan's on his way. He hasn't had enough performances to really say he's one of the best actors working today. There's just not enough there. What he's done is great. Everybody knows I'm a huge Michael B. Jordan fan, but I need to see more out of him than that. Shia LaBeouf, again, is about potential. When he's on his A game, he's among the elite, but he's not always on his A game. So it's difficult to put him up there from that. Joaquin Phoenix, I'd say, is definitely in there in the top, probably in the top 5. Is up there. But for instance, though, to me, none of these guys are anywhere near as good as Ralph Fiennes. To me, none of these guys are anywhere near as good as Chiwetel Ejiofor. To me, none of these guys are right up there with an Anthony Hopkins. To me, none of these guys are up there with a Denzel Washington. I just think there's still a bunch of names I put up there, but I certainly like all these names. I like all these names. But just like everything else, man, it's all subjective. Your opinion's no more and no less valid than mine. And these are all certainly good names and names that I like watching on screen. I'm glad you put Colin Farrell on there too, because a lot of people underestimate him a great deal. Matt Thornton writes, the Mary Poppins Returns trailer is truly spectacular. I think it further proves that Dick Van Dyke himself is, like Mary Poppins, magical. I'm still not sure that that's actually Dick Van Dyke dancing in that thing. I think there's a little bit of camera trickery and a little bit of visual effects going on there. I still think, until I get proved otherwise, I still kind of think they've CG'd his head on a different body. Now, somebody sent me a link to a video from over 2 years ago of Dick Van Dyke coming out on stage during a performance of Step in Time, which is one of the musical numbers from Mary Poppins, and doing a little step. And it was good, but it was just momentarily. He just did for a second a little step, and that was it. Very impressive for a 90-year-old man, all that kind of stuff. But that was over 2 years ago, and it was much lower effort that was called, and much lower mobility that was than what was called, or would have been called for, in that scene in the trailer with him dancing on the table. It might be him, which I think is the most awesome thing in the world. If that's actually Dick Van Dyke at like 92 or 93, however old he is now, doing that, that's awesome. I just don't think that's the case. I hope it is. I hope it is, but I still don't think it is, though. Jaron Morris writes, over under 10% Joel. I don't think he is going to die, but if you're asking for as far as an over-under scenario goes, I will take the over on that. Because, like I said, it's just 10 is just too low of a number. So I'll take the over on that. Even though I don't think he's going to die in it. I think 10's a very, very low number, so I'll take the over on that. Stephen Meisel writes, which season 2 was the best? First, Cage. Oh, Fist. Sorry. Fist, Cage, or Jones? Honestly, Iron Fist. Everybody knows I'm actually not a fan. I'm not a fan of Jessica Jones. I have not been a fan of that show. I was looking forward to season 2. I didn't like it. And to me, Luke Cage was a step down, a big step down from season 1. So, oddly enough, I'm going to say Iron Fist is the best season 2 out of those shows. Jabin Carter writes, is Nick Fury the love interest for Captain Marvel? I don't think so, but I'll be honest with you, Jabin, I've never considered that. I never thought about it. I never considered it. It's possible. Unlikely, but possible. I hadn't even thought about that. Thanks for bringing that up. That's something I got to consider now. Levi Road writes, I love TV shows. I feel like the shows on the BBC are much higher quality than in the US. Shows like Luther, Sherlock, and Bodyguard, Broadchurch. Why is that? Oh, I disagree. There are certainly BBC shows that I like very, very much. In particular, one that I like a lot right now is Killing Eve with Sandra Oh. I very much like that show. I like a hell of a lot. But, look, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, I mean, we can go on and on. All of my all-time favorite shows and stuff like that. To me, no. But that's just me. If you prefer those shows over any of the North American stuff, totally great. Why do you feel that way? Because all entertainment's subjective. Certain shows are going to hit you in a better way than they'll hit me and vice versa and all that kind of stuff. So that's why. So I personally would disagree and probably disagree fairly strongly, but that doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong. Not at all. If these are the shows that work for you best, then that's awesome. Let's see. Marie Seifring writes, Robert Redford said The Old Man and the Gun would be his last film he acted in. He did. It's kind of weird thinking that Robert Redford's not going to be acting in movies anymore. My 3 favorite Robert Redford films are Sting, awesome, Butch Cassidy, awesome, and 3 Days of the Condor, awesome. What would be your favorite? We talked about this the other day, actually, Marie. My actual all-time favorite one, and I make no apologies for this, my all-time favorite Robert Redford performance and film is Sneakers. Sneakers is my favorite one. I stand by that. I believe in that. I'm all about that. These films you've mentioned are awesome. Make no mistake about it. They are 6 degrees of awesome, and I love them. But Sneakers to me is that complete diamond in the treasure box of Robert Redford's career. But the biggest true gem in it to me is Sneakers. I love that film. I just love that movie. And I don't know why that movie doesn't get more love. Because I've never talked to anybody who has seen it, and a lot of people still haven't seen it, but I've never talked to anybody who has seen it that didn't really like it. I'm sure there are people out there who didn't like it, because all film is subjective, but that, and you've got Sir Ben Kingsley in there is great, Dan Aykroyd is great in it, River Phoenix is great in it, you got the great James Earl Jones who even pops up in it. I mean, it's a terrific cast, terrific story, great pacing, kind of set the framework for what became almost a sub-genre of films of security people who specialize in breaking into somebody's place just to point out the security flaws. We've seen a lot of movies use that motif. The first one, at least I remember them doing it, was Sneakers. So that's the one to me, Marie. It's sneakers. All right. Let's see. Where'd we go? Here we go. Jaron Morris writes, over under 90%, John Winchester returns in future Supernatural episodes. 19's a high number for that. I think it's possible. I would love to see him return after he's done playing in Walking Dead, that is. Once he's done with Lucille, his back. Because remember, they had Lucille, the baseball bat, cameo in Supernatural this past, which was hilarious. I love that. So to see him come back would be awesome, but I think 19's a bit high for that. I would probably say it's around the 7 or 8% line, so I'm going to take the under on 19. JPG writes, John, good day to you, sir, from Patriot Land. Well, good day to you from Patriot Land. One of my favorite things I've done the last couple of years is Ann and I, this past winter, we were in Rhode Island and visited New England, and we went to Gillette Stadium. Got to be there at the stadium. To me, it was like being on holy ground. It was awesome. So thanks for saying hi, man. And go Patriots, go. Mike Zambrano writes, itching for a Stranger Things Season 3. Any news on it? No. I think, it's done. They've got the release date. It's coming up here pretty soon. So we're in that period of time with the show like this or with a movie coming out. We're in that window of time where you don't want any news. The only news that could come out right now would be bad news. We're in that window of time leading up to its release of no news is good news. There shouldn't be any news at this point. And any news that is coming out about it is almost certainly going to be bad because we're in that window right now. So for me, no news is good news at this point. Let's see. Brendan Millsbog, I'm sure I'm butchering your name, Brendan, writes, the fact that this Phoenix Joker movie is happening is mind-boggling to me. Do you know if Scorsese is still involved and to what extent? My understanding is you're going to see his name on the producer's credits, but that his involvement is now done. That he's done his part. He put all the pieces in place. He got the significant people plugged into their role. Done. So that's my understanding of it at this point. Almost all the producers' roles at this point is now done. Let's see. Gerald Quintana writes, hey, John, just want to say thanks for doing what you do. Well, thank you. It's my honor to do it. Thank you for letting me do it, and thank you for making it possible for me to do it. I've been with you since the AMC days. I got my old AMC shirt on here. Explain the robbery in Triple G versus Canelo 2. Oh, I know I'm not going to go into it. Look, Triple G won that fight. It was a closer fight. First of all, the first fight, that was pure robbery. Pure robbery. Triple G clearly won the first fight. It's one of the reasons why I just basically don't watch boxing anymore. It's just stupid. And while this fight was closer, Triple G won that fight. Triple G won that fight. I wouldn't have complained like I did because they called the first one a draw, and that was no draw. That was no draw. Triple G bitched him in that first fight. This one was much closer, to the degree that I wouldn't complain, at least not complain loudly had they called it a draw. Canelo made a much better showing for himself this fight than he did last fight. All credit due, and it was a great fight. But Canelo did not win that fight. He did not win that fight. And it's just another reason why I just basically don't watch boxing anymore. I'll watch maybe 2 matches a year because of how badly they botch that sport. It's just laughable. Anyway, Kevin Brown writes, theory, Captain Marvel is hinted at in Doctor Strange before he crashes. Phone call about woman struck by lightning and has schizophrenia. She's been on Earth this whole time. Memory and powers tampered to be limited. I don't think so. I remember I had a different theory about who that was, but that to me doesn't equate. That doesn't equate. So I don't agree. Now, there might be more to your theory that would take you 3 or 4 more paragraphs to explain that. Maybe if you explained it more in detail, then I'd go, oh, oh, maybe that's the case. But off the top of my head, I don't see that. I don't see it. I don't think that's the case. But it is interesting how in this Marvel shared cinematic universe, we're always looking as fans, we're always looking to connect dots, like all over the place, right? So I don't think it was ever the intention for them to allude that that was Captain Marvel. I'll be honest with you, when they were writing Doctor Strange, they probably didn't even know they were making a Captain Marvel. Because you're going back years for when they were writing the script for Doctor Strange. You're going back years. And I don't think at that point they even knew they were going to do a Captain Marvel movie. So I'm going to guess no. But again, I'm not discounting the idea that you could, if you had like 5 or 6 more paragraphs, or if you were here with me personally, you could explain it. Maybe you could win me over to that. So not the silliest idea. I'm just going to say off the top of my head, I don't agree. But now watch, this is exactly what it's going to be. So, and you have every right to write back to me, Kevin, say, Campea, on September 18th, I told you that was an allusion to Captain Marvel, and it turns out it is. You write that to me, and I'll have to swallow that. All right. Universal Bullets writes, hey, John, first time ever sending in a question. Well, thanks so much, Universal. I appreciate it, man. If you could only watch one, would it be Venom or Aquaman? Have a great evening. Ooh, that's a Sophie's choice. That's a Sophie's choice. I'm going to say Venom because I just saw Aquaman, and I liked Aquaman in Justice League, and I like Jason Momoa as it, and I'm very excited for it. But this is a brand new incarnation. Not only is it a brand new incarnation of Venom, it's the first step that Sony is putting forward in an attempt to get a new cinematic universe going. I'm not saying I think Venom's going to be the better movie. As a matter of fact, if I had to put $5 on it, I'm betting Aquaman's going to be the better movie. But I don't know that, but I'm just guessing. But because I just saw this Aquaman in Justice League, and this is the first film of this incarnation of Venom with a first step forward in a brand new, what they're hoping to be a cinematic universe, I am more curious to see how this one turns out. So I don't like having to choose between them, Universal, but if I have to choose between them, I'm probably going to take Venom. Just because of the reasons I just explained. All right. Brennan writes, without spoilers, I think that thing at the end of The Predator is unforgivingly awful and really jumped the shark for me. Oh, I agree. And again, there's no point in us discussing it because the rest of our audience don't know what we're talking about. So I don't want to spend much time on that. But all I'm going to say, Brennan, is I completely, unreservedly, and without any hesitation agree with you. I am 100% on the same page with you on that. Believe it. But I can't go into why, obviously, but I 100% agree with you. Absolutely. Juan Peralta writes, Superboy in new Supergirl film, a good idea? No, I don't think so. Now you're just getting really, really derivative. I already don't like the idea that they're doing Supergirl. I understand the role in the comics and in the mythology. I get all that. I do. But I'm just not a big fan of derivative characters. At least not in live action movies. I'm not a big fan. I like to see more original characters. That's why while I love She-Hulk, I'm not all that excited about a live action She-Hulk because it's just a derivative of Hulk. You know? And I'm just not that big of a fan of derivative characters. But that's just me. So I would say no to that. So if, in my opinion, it's a good idea to bring in a Superboy, no, it's not. But just because I'm saying that one doesn't mean there's not a lot of other fans out there who wouldn't love the idea. So who knows? Let's see. Life of Logan writes, give a percentage on whether you think Spider-Man stays in the MCU. It's impossible. I can't because I don't know how good Venom's going to be. If you guys have watched me for any period of time, you know I believe it completely depends on how successful Venom is. I think if Venom is successful, like let's say it makes $60 million opening weekend, that's success for them. If Venom is successful, it greatly increases the chance that Spider-Man will stay in the MCU. Because Sony will go, hey, we don't need Spider-Man over here to be successful. Great, let's do our cinematic universe without Spider-Man, and we can keep Spider-Man over in the MCU. Yay, it's a win-win for everybody. If Venom flops and is terrible, then that increases the chances that Sony will take him back, because they're going to go, oh, Well, we tried to do a cinematic universe without Spider-Man, and apparently we can't do that. Every single Spider-Man movie we ever made here at Sony made over $700 million. Time to take Spider-Man back. So until we see how good or bad Venom does, it's impossible for me to give a percentage take on whether it's all going to depend on how good and bad Venom does. Until we see that, it's kind of pointless to try to give any sort of a percentage guess as to what Spider-Man they're going to do with Spider-Man. Venom's a hit. More likely it stays over in the MCU. If Venom's a flop, more likely they take him back. So we got to see how Venom turns out first. That's how I feel about it at any rate. Let's see. The Porn Nerds just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Porn Nerds. I appreciate that. Andrew James writes, thoughts on Oscar Isaac's dance moves in Ex Machina. It's a great little scene. I like that scene. You know, at first when it started playing out, I see when he starts doing this dance number with some of his androids, that I thought, oh, this is dumb. But then you know what? You start watching, you realize, no, the eccentricity of this character, this is totally something this character would do right here, right now. And it actually became a real nice scene in the movie. So yeah, I dug it. I thought it was really fun. Game Win Cam writes, John, we won't see Avatar again for a long time. Netflix, hold my beer. Just kidding. Love the show. Thanks for the hard work. Well, remember, that's two completely different things. I was talking specifically about a theatrical reboot. If you had asked me, do I think Last Airbender could pop up on a Netflix thing, I still would have said unlikely. I still probably would have said unlikely, but I would have said a much better chance that happens than, say, a theatrical thing, right? And again, I think it's a smart move. I really do. I think it's a smart move. The Porn Nerds writes, John, how many hints of Avengers 4 will we see in Captain Marvel? Or will they save for post-credits? Hashtag kiss kiss gangbang. I'm going to guess not many at all. Remember, this movie happens in the 90s. There may be a couple of small things that allude to stuff going on, but remember, this is all happening like 25 years, 28 years, depending on which year this movie happens in. But let's say, for argument's sake, 25 years before the events of Infinity War. So I'm guessing not a lot. You know what? I'm not even sure we're going to see anything post-credit scene regarding Avengers 4. Because how many times has Marvel done this to us, where we expect a certain thing in their post-credit scenes, but they do something completely different, right? So I don't know. I think actually the likelihood is pretty low. I'm not expecting to see a lot of breadcrumbs leading into Avengers 4. I think we might get a Thanos appearance. I think we may get a few things, but I'm not, and maybe at some point we see her getting Nick Fury's text message or pager message in the movie, and I think that's a possibility. But other than that, I don't see a lot of things connecting to it. Now, I don't know that. I'm just speculating as a fan. I mean, so take that for what it's worth. I don't know, but that's just my guess at this point. Let's see. Jacob Silvers writes, just got back from The Predator. It was so bad. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just got my producer buddy, friend of mine, texting me, Predator was so bad, or was just awful, or Predator is terrible. Or, yeah, man. And it still boggles my mind because it's directed by Shane Black, who's so good. That's it. I figured it out. It's a Skrull. The guy walking around right now calling himself Shane Black, it's a Skrull. We're going to see a tie into this whole thing. That's my only explanation. That is the only way I can possibly explain Shane Black laying an egg like the Predator. It's the only way I can explain, because Shane Black is a freaking awesome director. And the only way to explain him laying a huge egg like the Predator is that it's actually a Skrull walking around pretending. There, I solved it. I solved the mystery, everybody. You're welcome. All right. Mohammed Madreza writes, and I'm sure I butchered your name, man. I apologize. I'm terrible with names. Everybody knows this. If the snap is undone after a couple of years, what are the people who will come back to eat? Infrastructure would have collapsed after the snap. Humanity would adjust. Humanity will adjust. But then again, there's also a big possibility here that this is all going to be solved through time travel. And again, we don't know that. That's only speculation. It's simply one fan theory out of 1,000. But if it does get remedied through time travel, then that doesn't become a problem, right? Then that is a problem that gets solved without ever existing in the first place. Otherwise, the human race just adjusts to it. Because if there's only half of humanity left, then there's a lot more land for crops and all that kind of stuff. So humanity would adjust. That's my guess. It's an interesting theory. Like, actually, there's a bunch of threads out there right now about here are the problems that could exist if the snap gets undone. And talking about the population issues, the political upheaval that would happen, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if the world adjusts to only needing so much food and all of a sudden there's double the mouths to feed, how does that affect it? Good question. I'm just assuming humanity adjusts, but who knows? Maybe they got some kind of plan for that. But the whole question becomes moot if it's solved through time travel, because then it never becomes an issue. So we're going to have to see how they address that. All right. This was a record long show today, but because I started the show late today, I wanted to get through all the questions that got sent in. Final 2 questions today. Tristan writes, last Airbender Netflix series coming. We addressed that 3 or 4 times. Tony Call writes, thoughts on Defoe in At Eternity's Gates. I don't remember that one. Hold on a second. Oh, I think, wait, no, I'm thinking of the wrong film. Oh, that's one of the newer ones. That's why. Yeah, no, I don't know. I simply do not know. I haven't seen this one, so I know it has something to do with Van Gogh, but other than that, I don't know much about the film. I certainly haven't seen it yet, so I can't really give any thoughts on it, unfortunately. All right, guys. Whew. That will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining me, and thanks for being patient today, guys, as I started the show late because, again, I have a project I'm working on. I had meetings I had to attend to, and I'll fill you guys in on that all the more very, 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 very soon. But that'll do it for me. Don't forget, the John Campea Show returns tomorrow morning. Make sure you come on back and join us for that. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.